Welcome to the No Expiration Date podcast, the podcast for women 50 and better who are ready to shake things up, try new things, and live life on their terms.
We are your hosts, Cindy and Anne-Marie, two women who know that life after 50 is just getting started.
Whether you're reinventing yourself, chasing a dream, or just looking for real talk and good laughs, you're in the right place.
We'll cover everything from career pivots to wellness, relationships, and embracing this bold, beautiful season of life with confidence.
So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's chat, because the best is yet to come. Hey ladies, she's laid back, genuine, and has a great sense of humor. Dr. Kristen Rumley is a licensed clinical social worker and therapist with over 20 years of experience working with people on stress, grief, motivation, relationships, boundaries, depression, and anxiety. She served as an officer and licensed clinical social worker in the United States Air Force from 2008 to 2016. Following her military service, Dr. Rumley worked in civil service as the Director of Psychological Health with the Texas Air National Guard for 9 years. Currently, she works with Veteran Affairs in the Suicide Prevention Program as a community engagement and partnership coordinator. Dr. Rumley also volunteers as a court-appointed special advocate where she advocates for children who have been placed in the court system due to abuse or neglect. Dr. Rumley is passionate about advocacy, veterans' mental health, suicide prevention, and empowering women. In 2023, Dr. Rumley obtained her doctorate in social work, in which her dissertation focused on DEI and nonprofit volunteer recruitment. Fun fact, when she's not working, she spends a lot of time training and competing as a Highland Games athlete. Currently, Dr. Rumley is third in the world as a Masters women's lightweight from the 2024 Masters World Championships. She was also the first woman in the class to hold a world record for spinning weight over bar. Dr. Rumley's passion for competing comes from wanting to empower women to follow their passion no matter what age. Dr. Rumley also has a therapy private practice focusing on veterans and women's mental health.
Hey ladies, and welcome to today's episode, Mind Over Midlife, Mental Wellness in Your Power Years. We are happy to have with us today Dr. Kristen Rumley, a licensed therapist who specializes in helping women navigate life with grace, courage, and authenticity. We're talking about everything from identity shifts and body image to reinvention and mental wellness. If you've ever felt like you're supposed to have it all figured out by now, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you. So tell us how the transition from leaving the Department of Defense to working at the VA has gone for you.
Well, just to give a little background, I feel, well, first of all, my voice sounds horrible, ladies, because it's allergies. And in Texas, we all get allergies and it's coming out my voice. So people might think this is normal, but it's not.
Sexy voice.
Sexy voice.
1-800.
I think transitions are really important because that's when we can see like our underlying stuff come out. And so I was active duty until 2016, and I went from active duty and overlapped a week to civil service in the DOD. So I kind of cheated that transition.
Yeah.
Like it was hard. It was really, really hard because, of course, active duty, you're going a million miles a minute. And all of a sudden I'm not. And I'm like, what am I? Who am I? So I sort of cheated transition, and I was still around uniformed and like embedded. Then I just left the DOD to the VA, and I'm also working at home, and I have no interaction with anybody in the military. So it's been very hard. Like, who am I? Where do I belong? Where do I fit? So I think transitions can have us kind of question like our purpose and, what do I really want? And change is hard. I don't think people do change well, even though some people are like, I can embrace change, but you know what?
Yeah.
I don't like change.
Right. I like being comfortable and knowing what I'm doing every day versus something new, something different.
So you work at the VA, the Veterans Affairs. Tell us a little bit about your private practice.
Yeah. So I started that about 3 years ago. I called it my side hustle. So I started on the side, and I've done mental health for many years, even before I was active duty. So, but I always had a company like running it for me. So it was a little bit of a rough start of logistics, like what paperwork do people need to fill out? But it was really interesting because I got a different dynamic of people in the military. You get a lot of worried well, which is fine. It's still worry, it's still stuff. But then now I'm getting more deeper clinical and a lot more women because in the military again there's an unbalanced gender and seeing just the different issues that people are facing it kind of helped with my sense of purpose. So even with the transition from the DoD to the VA, my private practice has helped me still stay rooted to the mental health piece that I feel a sense of purpose with and I enjoy doing.
Right. Yeah. So, what role does therapy play in helping women cope with physical changes of menopause and aging, since we're talking about women in this episode specifically?
Well, I would say therapy helps with everything because, first of all, our mental health is going to come out in our bodies
Right.
before anything.
Right.
Like our body is going to show that something's going on. And with menopause too, like our body shows that the change is happening, whether it be emotional, hormonal, or whatever. And so, kind of dealing with that. But in therapy, we process a lot. Like we process our worldview. It's called schema. Schema is your worldview, and then your narrative, and all of that really plays into how we deal with the changes in our body and the changes in our life, the way we're thinking. And so, a lot of the work I do is really about patterns, like our patterns of thinking, our patterns of living, and then also that narrative in our head and
Right.
that will impact how we are doing. And I think that I have people who I've been their therapist for, well, 8 years. Like I in the Guardian, I had people who were I was their provider for the 8 years.
Right.
And then even in my private practice since I started, I have people who've been with me since the beginning. And so some of them I would say they're fine. They're fine. But they're really coming for that to understand that perspective, to continue to process their lives in a healthy way.
Right.
And so a lot of times people will come in a crisis, but then we'll morph into let's really get to the underneath of like, who the heck am I and what is going on in my life? So,
Yeah.
You see a lot of that with like military women and trying to figure out like who am I in the military because it's so like you're doing this job period and then once you get out of uniform they don't know who they are anymore.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
very much. Because, especially for women in the military, we're not allowed to be very feminine.
Right.
And then a lot of times women in the military are they're the mom, they're the sometimes they're the breadwinner,
Right.
and they are in charge of everything, and they're doing everything for everybody, and then they don't have the uniform anymore. So it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing, and what do I want to do, and what about me?
Yeah.
So if we're always identified by like either the uniform or I'm mom or I'm daughter or I'm wife, whatever, spouse, then what are we when we don't have those things?
So how do you help women manage that phase of their life?
Well, we really do dig at, I hate to sound all therapy, but we really got to look at how we were raised.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have to look at what was around us. So let me see if I can give a couple examples. Um, so if I was raised, I'll give an easy one. If I was raised to think that all men are bad,
Right.
then that's going to be the lens that I see the world. So my worldview might be, oh my gosh, all men are bad. And I don't think all men are bad. I'm just saying that as an example. It's an easier one to use. It's very black and white. And so it's learning that, well, maybe not all men are bad. Maybe one person or five people or whatever are bad, but that's not the whole thing. So it's changing the lens that we see the world. I think that as women, I don't know if it's cultural, probably, we always feel guilty for something.
Yes.
Like we're not adding up to something.
Yeah.
And so it's that worldview. And I believe that some of it is society pressure that I'm never good enough mom. I'm never good enough wife. I have to be perfect for everybody. But then working with them on maybe you are good.
Right. Yeah.
Like maybe you are doing it right. So we do a lot of like, well, what's the feeling? And then what's the facts?
Oh, I like that.
So, and so we dig in that. And then we work a lot on so if I feel abandoned, right? Let's say that's a trigger feeling. It might not be true. Like I might not be abandoned, but I feel
Right.
abandoned. Then because I feel abandoned, I might believe that I am, and then my behavioral response might reflect that. So we kind of dissect a lot of stuff.
Do you feel that women have like a mental block usually holding them back once they get out of the military or change careers? Is there like a mental block at this point in their life where it keeps them from pursuing passions and like new careers? Is there
sometimes I think depression plays a role in it, and depression's pretty normal with change. So I like to talk about grief a lot because there's a loss. And so when we transition, there's a loss and we're grieving. So that grieving process might have us stay stuck in a thinking pattern or stay stuck in a belief pattern. Or if I don't know about you guys, but we probably run 1,000,000 miles a minute and do everything for everyone. Sometimes that's avoidance. So we're not even, so you're not even thinking about the emotions because you don't have time for it.
Yeah.
And so when we have a transition, whether it be whatever's slowing us down, that's going to be a scary point because then our thoughts are here now and we don't know what to do with them because we're so used to avoiding some of those thoughts.
Yeah, I see myself going through that. Like now that I've slowed down from working and working and working, I am having these things pop up. Like, and I've learned that I am avoidant, and like I'm like trying to figure out how to work through that. You know, like how do I become more secure with myself, or how do women what would you do for women to help them become secure?
Well, it would be a lot of different steps that get us to that. But sometimes it's that people are if they're not secure in themselves, they're not trusting themselves.
Right.
Like they're not trusting that, okay, I might feel inadequate, but I did make a good decision. You know, like they don't trust that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's learning to trust their thoughts, trust, what we feel in our gut and believe in ourselves,
Yeah.
And that is definitely hard. Like that is not something that we do in a week. It takes a lot, especially again, I have women who, when they were growing up, they were told like, you're not thin enough, you're not pretty enough, but maybe it's not even direct like that. Maybe it's not someone saying you're not pretty. Maybe it's that behaviors around it enforce that belief.
Yeah.
Or
Being
maybe
compared.
Yeah, you were compared,
Sisters or brothers.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of stuff. So usually someone will come to me and they'll say like, I'm just really overwhelmed. Kids are always needing me. I'm doing all this stuff. Work needs me, and all these things, and I'm just tired. I'm burned out. Burnout is a big feeling, but they almost don't feel like they're allowed to care about themselves.
How do you help women realize that it's okay to put themselves first sometimes and not have that guilt?
So I don't do that. They have to do it.
Yeah, you're right.
So in therapy, a lot of times I would love to shake them and be like, but look what you're doing. But it's not, what I say doesn't matter. So as a therapist, it's very unique because sometimes if I start giving my opinion, I realize, oh, this isn't therapy anymore. I have to stop and reflect and just be a mirror. So, okay, I hear you saying this, but I'm curious because you're saying this, but is that what happened? So like it'll kind of sound like that in session. Like if someone says like nobody likes me. Everyone, I go up and I do this presentation and I bombed it. And I'm like, really? Who said that? Well, no one said that. Okay. Well, why do you think that? Well, I just didn't feel good. Okay, but what does the data say? Like, what does the data say? So do you think maybe you did a good job? I mean, do you think maybe we could, so we just do a lot of that, like over and over, because the script we have in our head was ingrained for years.
Right.
So it's picking it apart. And it's a lot of our thinking, it's stinking thinking, I have a couple clients that I've worked with long enough that I can be a little more silly and blunt.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll say, wait a minute, that sounds catastrophic. Is that true? No. Okay, that's what I thought. That kind of stuff. And so it's just that those habits, our brain habits, and it's just changing them over and over.
Okay. Yeah. So with people like, I remember we talked briefly and you said that like women, there's like are bringing up trauma at this point in their life. How do you feel that if there is trauma, like say Emery and I are avoidant, should we keep avoiding that or should we face it?
Well, if you look at the diagnoses of PTSD, avoidance is like one of the biggest criteria. So like avoidance is okay. I'll talk about it this way. So let's say I went through trauma, I experienced something horrible, right? Something that was not in my control and threatened my safety in some way. So I'm going to try everything possible to seek safety all the time, or especially when something reminds me of it and I might not even realize it. I'm going to always seek safety and I'm never going to want to be vulnerable because that's how I can be in control of my life. So what happens is a lot of times the patterns we do are really seeking safety and hiding vulnerability. So avoidance is in a sense serving a purpose of seeking safety and not being vulnerable. Because if I don't have to think about it or deal with it, then I'm not vulnerable to the scary thing. The scary thing is not forever. So that's what we work on. It's like this scary feeling is not forever.
I feel like you're talking to me directly.
Am I?
I just feel like I went through some stuff when I was young.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now I feel good. I'm happy and everything. Why would I want to dredge that up again?
Because it's there.
I know, but
It's
I
going
don't
to
think
come out.
about it.
It is going to come out. It's going to come out whether you like it or not. It's going to
When?
Well, when you least expect it. In a transition. No, I'm just kidding.
No, probably so.
Like it comes out, trauma resurfaces in many ways. And, you don't have to deal with it.
I just want to keep it buried.
Yep.
Like I
but is
killed
it keeping you in a prison?
But I don't feel that way.
So if you're feeling good now, then ride out the good. But I just know with all my years with trauma is a grief. I'll also tell you my trauma theory. So if somebody had something happen, let's say as a kid, there was probably a loss of innocence or like a loss of youth or a loss of childhood or a loss of something. And so you have to grieve it. You have to grieve it to get to the other side of it. So where maybe it doesn't impact you intensely. So if you were to stop and have a whole day thinking about it, it probably would feel really intense and crappy.
Right.
The idea of working through trauma is that you can think about it and it's not as intense and it's not doesn't have power over you.
Yeah.
But trauma is grief. There's a loss. And so a lot of times I'm looking at the theme of, oh, I think that person's grieving right now. Or where's the loss happening?
That's cool that you can see that when you're working with your clients.
So I'm a social worker by trade, LCSW, and so you have social workers, psychologists, and professional counselors, all licensed, right?
Right.
We just have different schools that we come from, but we come to the same end. So like this more social worker looks at what are the systems impacting the person, what's going on all around them in the environment. We look at systems, environments. I'm a fan of patterns and I don't know if that's social worky or not, but that just tends to be where I go as people is patterns.
What do you mean by patterns? Like how specifically? What do you mean?
Patterns in our communication with people. So like in relationships, we have a dance. It's a pattern. We're going to dance into conflict every time, probably the same way until we change the pattern. Or let's see, let me think. I might have an example that I can give you. Let's see. No, I can't give you that one. What if they listen? I'm just kidding. I'm trying. Let me think. Maybe I can grab it from my life. Okay, I'll just give some examples. I'm a conflict avoider by trade. That's my pattern.
Me too.
Yeah. So I do not want a ripple in my pond. I will. And so then the conflict avoider tends to appease to avoid the ripple. And so that is a pattern. So if I find myself, I know what it feels like when I'm appeasing. Sometimes I'm appeasing in a good way and it makes me feel happy. But sometimes I'm appeasing because I don't want the conflict. And I know how I can feel it in my body. So that's a pattern. So then if I was working with my therapist, they would be like, okay, do you think you're doing that appeasing thing at this time? Maybe we need to change that right there, because if you change that pattern, it'll change the dynamic kind of thing.
Right.
Do you think that's common for women to be a people pleaser?
Well, I think our society kind of sets us up that way. Because I think if the evolution of a woman in general is like we are making our husband happy. That's what is it? Leave it to Beaver, like that's
kind of feed them and take care of the house.
Well, even all the ads that you see, women are always in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the culture is trying to shift, because evolution, like we evolve. But as women, it's still something, I'm in the Highland Games community, do a lot of throwing, and we actually
And you're
have
badass.
I try. But the women empowerment in that community is huge. We have an organization called Sisterhood of the Highland Throwers, and we sometimes hashtag like take up space because as a woman, society kind of tells us to be small and to be quiet. And so we encourage like taking up space, using your voice. I'll give you a funny story. I hope I can say it on here.
Go ahead.
So in the Highland Games community, we have scores and rankings. And as women, it, sometimes we don't get as advocated for. So in the system, my scores don't always transfer to all areas. And I get so frustrated because I feel like I have to nag somebody to do it the way it needs to be done.
Right.
Constantly nagging. Well, a friend of mine said, you can edit this out if it's not appropriate. She said, men, they don't think they're nagging. They just grab their balls and do it.
100%.
And they just are like, hey, scores aren't in the right place. That's it.
Yep.
Why aren't you doing that? And I was like, I feel like I can't. But then I was like, well, I'll just try that. So I've been working on if I feel like I'm nagging, no. Hey, can you do this? I'm like, I'm going to
be more assertive.
I'm going to be like a man and be like, no, this is what it should be. And not worry about inconveniencing somebody or hurting their feelings.
I mean, because they're quick to judge women, but not the men. Yeah. I mean, that's just how the world is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was in a women's leadership summit this week, and one of the seminars was called Unmute Yourself. And she was talking about how women, if we're in a meeting, majority men in there, we always, if we have something to say, we always kind of make it small, like, well, I think that, and then they say their point. She's like, take that out. Just say what you have to say. Stop trying to, or they'll, before they say something, they're going to talk about their credentials. You don't have to, because men don't have to prove who they are before they make a statement.
Right.
They just say, even if they're wrong, they're so confident and they just say whatever they want to say. But when women want to say something, especially in a group of men, we always have to tell them like, well, I read somewhere that, or I think this is what it is. I hear your point, but I might think, you know what I mean? Like always, and it was such a powerful presentation. I just loved it. It was like, I call unmute yourself. I'm like, yeah, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Just say what you have to say without making it small.
Or like, I'm not sure if everyone will like this. But.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is something to practice. I started over the years trying to practice that, to not put a disclaimer in front of my thought. And
I did that on my statement on Lady World.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't take offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I just wanted to stir the pot.
Well, so I stirred the pot. Lady World, and just by the name, it should be just women, right? A girls' weekend. And some women are bringing boyfriends and husbands. I'm like, I don't want to be around that. Like, I want to be around a bunch of women.
Yeah. No, women empowerment, especially as we get older, is a unique thing. I've also learned myself and seen through other women that friendships when you're older are confusing. Yeah. It can seem really high school, actually. Like some of that stuff can come out and trigger some high school stuff, school age stuff, but we still act the same. We just are older with gray hair.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we still can be catty, and women still can struggle because I do all this competition, and as women, being competitive is a tiptoe dance because you aren't going to be like, yo, I'm better than you. Like, you're not going to do that. They're your friends, but you're still trying to beat them. So it's a very weird dynamic.
Yeah. I think as we get older, I don't know, I value friendship more. So I don't want to hurt her feelings with anything. So I do. Yeah. I wouldn't do that to her. Maybe somebody else, but
I think I'm more selective now. Yeah. Where I feel like because I go to a lot of networking events and everything for my business and everything. And if there's someone who's just kind of negative or I feel like has a hater vibe, I don't have to be around her. Like next, I don't feel like I have to accept everybody into my circle. Yeah. I can be selective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Some women, though, they're negative. So, okay. My favorite book right now is the Mel Robbins Let Them. And so
I love Mel Robbins.
I'm not going to take credit for this, but Mel Robbins says you can only really meet people where they're at. So
that's true.
I can't expect this woman A to meet me in a respectful place and then be genuine with me if they can't meet themselves there.
Yeah.
And that was a big reality check in the last couple of years with female friendships is I'm like, no, yes, I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine with you. I want to be like connect, but not everyone's capable of that.
Right.
And so then it can feel confusing.
Do you ever have women that you work with just try to navigate the whole friendship?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And dating.
Yeah. Oh, that needs to be a topic. We
Yeah.
talk about that.
Oh yeah. I have quite a few that are older than 30 and living in the dating world. And how the heck do you do that? Yeah. It's a now I divorced and I was single in my 30s and I can't imagine doing it now.
Try 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a sad pond of people out there.
It's definitely challenging.
Do you work with a lot of women dealing with like major life changes like that, whether it's like retirement, empty nesters, and divorce, stuff like that? Like, how do you help them navigate that?
Well, if you think when we hit 40s, 50s, there's a lot of changes going on. So when you talk about transition, some stuff we don't realize is a transition. So again, like our kids,
right?
Like where are they at in their age? Some people might have kids later, so maybe they're still home. But a lot of times, like my youngest is graduating and is going to be leaving. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I hardly see him. But you know what? Actually, it might be hard.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times what happens in marital relationships is you realize, like, what are we as a couple?
Right.
Like the kids were a distraction.
You guys are Vikings.
Is that what we are? We fight like Vikings too. Nothing's perfect. And, we all, but with my husband and I, we're going to be home without any kid distraction. So what do we do?
Right. Yeah.
We've had a little bit of practice because again, it went from 3 to 1. But then job transition. Some people are at an age where maybe they could start retiring or change a different career path. So then it comes into play again, another transition. Who am I? What do I want to do? And so, yeah, you can fill your time with stuff, but that might be, I think women are used to feeling burned out. So that's a familiar feeling, but maybe not one that we need to feel.
Right. I mean, we kind of have to give ourselves grace. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to be burned out. It's just how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah.
How are you going to bounce back?
Yeah.
How do you have like bounce back tactics?
Well, sometimes we just got to meet ourselves where we're at. So if I'm going to have a couple of days where I know everyone's talking about bed rot, but if I want to bed rot for like 2 days, okay. And then get out.
I haven't heard that. So you're just saying like staying in bed forever?
Yeah.
Like it?
And doom scrolling,
I can watch TV and TikTok.
Yeah.
I went to Arkansas last week just for a week and it rained one of the days. And I went for a run in the morning, but then it poured like a tsunami on this little lake. And I just laid there and watched it rain. No sound, no nothing, and then fell asleep. Did nothing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did nothing that day.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hike, because that's how I am. Go and do something.
But were your thoughts like, oh my gosh, I didn't do all this stuff, so am I wrong?
Yeah, because sometimes
I did. I felt like I was lazy. I'm like, then I'm just like, no, I needed that day to. It rained for a reason. For me to chill out.
Yeah, so maybe we need to practice being quiet,
right?
Or not being quiet, but like practice sitting in without distractions.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It is hard because I feel like I always have to be entertained. If I'm doing the dishes, I have to turn on the TV. If I'm taking a shower, I have to put on some music. Like, why can't I just have silence? What's going on with me that I can't just have silence? I don't want to think about what's going on in my life. I want distraction 24/7.
It's all going to come pummeling out. I'm just saying.
I know. Like one day.
It just, our stuff comes out. Our stuff comes out whether we like it or not. And sometimes it can feel like opening Pandora's box too, because it's harder to close once we open it. But I will say, if you get a therapist, it's a safe person to close a box with.
I've been to therapy after my divorce.
That's good.
And actually, it was very helpful. It was very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I knew that if I had therapy that day, the rest of the night, I was spent. I couldn't think about anything. I was just drained.
Yeah.
But it was very helpful.
Yeah. I try really hard. I understand that as a client, it's a lot to get to that therapy session. So I try really hard to be on time and not cancel. Sometimes things happen, but I know how hard it is to prepare for it, that I don't want it to be that someone gets prepared and then we don't have our session,
Yeah,
Right.
because
And
person like us in avoidant mode, we'd be like, "Oh, she canceled." Yes,
I know.
you know,
I'm
but
gonna go eat my feelings right now.
and now don't have to deal with it. I don't. Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, I also see with people who deal with a lot of trauma, who are it's uncovering it, that they don't come back because they're not ready.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that would. I'm sure that would be me.
yeah. I just started. Well, I have two therapists.
Mhm.
So I have one that I go to every other week and sit down and talk, and we're working through some things. But I just started EMDR with another.
Oh, EMDR is fantastic.
What is
So
EMDR for
it's
people who
like,
don't know?
yeah. Do you want to explain
wait,
it?
you want me to explain it?
Oh, yeah.
You probably know it better than me because I'm actually not certified in
Okay.
it. But I've seen such success with EMDR. Like anyone with trauma, I'm like, you don't want to come to me, you need EMDR. I mean, they'll come to me,
Yeah.
but like EMDR is fantastic.
Yeah, it's like a eye movement. You just kind of watch this thing and you work through your trauma and you kind of regulate how you're feeling. And then until you, once it stops, she asked how you feel. And then if you're not feeling good yet, you just go through it again with another question until you kind of work through that trauma, until
And
you
it's an
feel good about it.
acronym?
It's either like a light bar or a finger but your eyes are moving. Sometimes it's a tapping thing. So I don't know which way they're doing it.
Yeah, it's online. So it's just a thing that moves back and forth on the screen. And I just follow it with my eyes.
So if you think about it, EMDR is almost an avoidance tactic because you're dealing with something uncomfortable, but you're sort of not fully in it, right?
Right.
Engaged. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's eye movement desensitize. My goodness.
Eye movement desensitization.
Yes, and
realization.
reprocessing. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a psychotherapy
Interesting.
technique.
Yeah. It's a you can use it for all types of mental health things, but it started with trauma.
Yeah.
So it's a way to now some people, if they're not ready yet, they'll not have a great experience. But
Right.
it just means that they're not ready yet. But I've seen a lot of people do well with EMDR.
Yes. I've been through one session so far. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
it's
had to
pretty
I
good.
got called into work this week, so I had to cancel. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. And it's hard because it can anytime you're doing because that's one of the evidence-based modalities for trauma is EMDR, prolonged exposure, cognitive processing therapy. But it's hard, it's more structured. So you're not necessarily going to go in there and be like, oh my God, my day sucked. Right.
Right.
It's very, very
yes,
structured.
very structured.
But that's okay. It really is good.
Yeah.
How do you help women who feel invisible, especially moms or maybe women who are empty nesters? Like we've been kind of put in the back burner for so long. How do you help them just come out?
Well, I think it's about like where is their empowerment? Like,
Yes.
do they feel they can use their voice? Because a lot of women don't feel that they can use their voice. So it's figuring out like in order to be seen, we have to figure out well, like what do they want? Like who are they? You know, what do you want it to look like in a social situation or where do you want to be seen, you know, where if you feel like maybe your family's not seeing you, but and the other thing I didn't bring up is boundaries is a big part.
We were
yes.
talking about that.
And boundaries. So like I hate to sound callous, but we by not setting boundaries we almost enable certain behaviors.
Right.
Doesn't mean that that's right. So if I'm like a victim and things have happened to me, it doesn't mean it's my fault because I didn't set boundaries.
Right.
But boundaries is so huge in all of our relationships. It makes the relationship healthy. So if I have someone in a situation where they feel unseen, I'd think of well, what are the boundaries you need to set with yourself and others in order to then feel that way? Like, but people, we all struggle with boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
I think so because you almost feel bad for setting those boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's starting small, easy boundaries. It doesn't have to be, do not do this or I will leave.
Yeah.
That it's not going to work out that way. So it's like, what would be small boundaries? Sometimes it's statements. Like I like to come up with different statements, to set a boundary. So like my favorite one is like, I'm not comfortable with that. And that's a
Yeah.
boundary. I'm not comfortable with that. Or, one I'm working on is, did you mean to come off rude? It's kind of a boundary. You know?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of using my voice, but as an appeaser, I'm not going to want to make someone upset with me.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's kind of
Some balance.
dancing with our personality traits,
Right.
but yet still trying to learn how to do boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have issues with boundaries too.
I'm telling you, it's very normal,
It is.
but
Yeah.
it is very healthy to learn how to do that.
Yeah. And that's with everyone in your life.
Yeah.
Every person.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times with women, though, the first boundary is actually like with themselves. They're not setting boundaries with they're saying yes to everything.
Yes.
You know, they're not. A boundary would be, I am going to speak up if I'm not okay with this. You know,
Right.
so it's like they have to work on the boundaries with themselves first.
So what do you think is the biggest mindset shift women can make, for better mental health?
I think again, it's that narrative. So what is your narrative? So let's see. I'll use an example. We all have from growing up an uncomfortable feeling that we'll avoid. We all have it, whether it was trauma or not. So over the years, I've been like, oh, I know what mine is. It's disappointment. So if something happens, it triggers disappointment, and I don't like that feeling. I will do everything to avoid that disappointment. And then what am I saying to myself in that moment? Am I saying, see, everybody always does that, see,
Yeah.
nobody cares. Like, so like that's my voice in my head at the time. So I have to try and deal with, okay, again, what's feeling in fact. And then that uncomfortable feeling is actually not so scary. So if I sit in disappointment for a little bit, um, it'll go away. And then the other thing people struggle with is how to comfort themselves, how to self-soothe. And sometimes that comes with maybe growing up, all households are different. Some households, they don't say, I love you. It's just not what they say. Or maybe there wasn't comforting, or maybe we didn't show emotion. So it's figuring out what were the rules and then realizing I can change that. So a lot of times people, when their emotions are all over the place, they don't know how to self-soothe. And
Right.
so we all are 8-year-old children. So how would you soothe your 8-year-old self?
Yeah.
Ice cream.
It's just crazy how our childhood has impacted our adulthood.
It's all learning.
Oh, yeah.
It's all learning.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with affection, so therefore my kids didn't get as much as they should, and I'm aware of that, so I've tried to correct that, but it's been so hard to do.
Yes.
And now I see it in my son. He doesn't make eye contact. I'm like, come on now. It's just like Thanksgiving, we had dinner and he never came out of his room. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it's just, I created that monster, not intentionally. It's just, that's how I was too.
That's not your fault.
I know. But I think it's teenage boys, but
yeah, because
I don't understand boys at all.
I have 3 boys too. And I was going through this week feeling like my kids don't even need me anymore. They don't even need me. And then I was going through this week thinking like, what was I just want to have fun around the house. We're not having fun. They don't care, like all this negative stuff, right? Not really based off anything. Like I was able to realize it was whatever I was going through was coming out that way. So then later that day, my senior, he came home and he's like, where's my mother? I haven't seen her in days. I need hugs, tons of hugs. And I was like, oh my God, you see, I do exist, So I think that it's my biggest fear is that my kids will be in therapy because of me someday, but they will be in therapy because of me someday because that's how it is.
Right.
They joke around too because I say that all the time. Like, you're gonna be in therapy because of me someday.
How do you help women who feel lost, like if their children are all out of the house or have no direction or just kind of in a slump? How do you help them get out of that?
So that's where it gets hard because what do they like?
Yeah.
What do they want to do?
Find
And a
your
lot of
passion.
times they don't know. Like it's not as simple as I just need to start going and painting pottery. Like it's just not that easy. And then sometimes they're dealing with depression, and depression's going to affect our motivation.
Yes.
It's going to affect a lot. So if you think about it, we have the transitions, we have who am I now? We have our hormones, we have just tons of we have aging parents. We have all these issues that we did not get a handbook for hitting us,
Right.
and what do you do with that? So even at the games, when we're women together, we're not always talking about our personal stuff because we're competing, but sometimes we'll be like, man, it was a rough week, and kind of know that we're all dealing with stuff together,
Yeah.
and just be supportive. But it's figuring out, what do you like to do? Some people are like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
And they don't have the time to figure it out because they've still filled their days with everything.
And take care of everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Right. So who are we when we're not a caregiver?
Right. Yeah.
So, are you taking new clients in your practice?
I
though?
am. I'm taking new clients, and I basically see clients in my off day or in the evenings, and I'm working on this. It's not a grant, but I'll be able to any military or first responder, instead of them paying my self pay, I'll be able to get this grant that will pay for the visits.
Active duty or any
Military first responder veteran, yeah.
veteran.
So I'm working on that. Most people don't care. I was really surprised. People will be like, "No, I'll pay your self pay." I do take some insurances too, but I don't take TRICARE because I can't take TRICARE if I work for the
Right.
government.
Conflict of
So
interest.
any TRICARE people, they'll either pay me out of pocket, my out of pocket rate, or again, I'm working on this grant, which I think is gonna be so cool.
Hey, how can they find you?
I'm on Psychology Today. You can just look up my name, Kristen Bromley. I'm licensed in Texas, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania.
So you do online and
It's all virtual.
everything's virtual.
Everything's
Okay.
virtual.
Is it like a Zoom?
I work on like 3 different platforms. So
Okay.
some of it's Zoom. I'm on Headway, which is the Zoom. I'm on Talkspace, which is their platform. And then I have another platform that's like my own practice.
Oh, cool.
So the difference is a 1099. Really.
Okay.
Which makes accounting very easy.
Is there a website or a phone number to best reach you?
Oh, geez. I would just either look up, me on, I think I have a like page. I think it's Rumley Consulting.
Okay.
And then Psychology Today is the easiest.
Okay. Oh, good to know.
Yeah. Because if I was to list to you the name of the web page, it'd be too long. Like dots and periods. I haven't gotten to that point of having my own.
Yeah. LinkedIn, maybe?
I'm on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. So it would just be Dr. Kristen Rumley.
Yes.
Rumley.
Yes. Yes. And I think there's like only one other Kristen Rumley in the world if you Google it.
Nice.
You're the world champion, though,
Yeah, tell us
in Highland Games.
Oh,
really quick what Highland Games is,
okay.
if people don't know.
So you wear kilts and you throw heavy things, but there's 9 events. It's very similar to your field events at track and field with like shot put, discus, similar moves. So you have 9 events and you compete in them and you're in different classes. So there's just a women's open class. There's master's classes. So I am a master, 40 and up as masters. And then I also compete as a lightweight. And so I've held the world record and gotten it taken from me twice
Oh no.
in my age and my lightweight for one of the events. And then I just took it back this weekend.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm not going to hold it very long, but I can still
Hey.
say I held
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
World record holder.
Yeah, but the
next to
women
me.
in the sport are amazing. We do the Sisterhood of the Highland Throwers. It's a nonprofit. They a lot of times we try and do Sister of the Day at the games. And Texas just had 2 weekends ago its first ever all women's game, and there were 42 women who came. It was at a castle a little bit kind of by Houston area.
Oh, neat.
That's so cool.
But yeah, there
Is
were
that like maybe where they have the Renaissance?
no,
Because I know that now.
no, it's not there. But I know where you're talking about.
Okay.
It was by Belleville.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Very cool.
but it was seeing all those women. And this one woman, 68 years old.
So
Wow.
Her first time ever.
inspiring.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's so cool. And being and the women's class has grown because it's really was never originally a female sport. And I got invited to Scotland to the first ever World Female Heavy Event Championship.
So cool.
When is that?
August.
Very exciting.
Are you going?
Yes.
Yes.
But I haven't told
You
many
have
people yet.
to.
Okay, well, now you just told the whole world.
Yeah. But 12 women get to go. You apply, and then they'll
Very
if you meet
exciting.
the criteria.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I need to come watch you.
You should.
Yes, we need to come.
You should. Yeah.
Yes, because they have one in Helotes, right? Like,
Yes, the first weekend in April every year.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
it's very.
But since it's Texas, we kind of pause in the summer.
How
Yeah.
did you find that? How did you get into that?
We had a friend who wanted to try the games. And so my husband and I were like, okay, let's do this. And so we showed up at the San Antonio one. So we're starting our 4th year. So 3 years ago,
wow.
we showed up and I hated it because I didn't know that as an older woman, I could throw a lighter weight.
Oh,
So I was like throwing this 28-pound over
Like
the
a
bar.
bowling ball.
Is that when you like
plus. That's like two
poked your
bowling balls.
leg with a
No,
fork?
that was later.
Oh, okay.
I've done that twice.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super fun. So, you don't have to know what you're doing or ever have experience and just show up. But
Cool.
as women, we end up like putting glitter on us. And so some people have criticized, like, you guys are putting glitter on, you're laughing all day. We have music. I have a playlist. Like you're dancing around, but you're not taking it seriously. But no, actually what we're doing is we're bringing other women to the
Yes.
game. So we have
Yeah.
one in Houston and I always wear like blue clip-ins in my hair. I'm like all blue. It's like this, the thing. And I have so many little girls who
Oh,
want to come up and get their photo taken and want to
cool.
try it.
That's
So
cool.
it might be loud and glitter, but we're bringing women to
Yeah.
the game. So
Very cool. It's exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
It's
for
been
having
fun.
me. I appreciate
I
it.
think it was a therapy session for
Oh,
me.
Go on and on,
By the time we're done, I'm just like,
The No Expiration Date podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are our own and do not constitute professional advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no guarantees regarding the completeness, reliability, or accuracy of any content. This podcast should not be considered a substitute for professional guidance in any area, including legal, financial, business matters. Any actions taken based upon the information presented are at your own risk. Listener discretion is advised, and all content is shared in good faith for entertainment and informational purposes only.